John Zogby on the line right now. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Bill.
So we had and still want to talk about the president's ban, which is in the courts right now. Which this is just pretty enormous as we're watching this whole thing unfold. But just for a minute, if you could, did you see the interview with Bill O'Reilly?
I did.
Thoughts on? Of course, everybody's honing in on the comments about Putin, and we're not so innocent ourselves. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, it's pretty stunning, no matter which side of this you're coming from, because you know we're not accustomed to presidents speaking like that. You know, generally, what a president of the United States says has enormous ramifications here in the U.S. and worldwide, and Donald Trump is a disruptive personality. He's breaking all of the rules. You know, the Washington speak is generally, you know, diplomatic speak with a lot of caution, and so essentially, you know, what he's doing is he's throwing some fire bombs out there. Now, at the same time that he is saying that about Putin, you've got the ambassador, Nikki Haley, at the United Nations condemning Putin. You have others in his administration saying, well, there's no moral equivalent between what we have done in the United States and an outright murderer like Putin. So now there's a bit of confusion as well. But he's the president of the United States. He said what he said, and now you're seeing that it also has some serious implications among Republican leaders who he's going to need for his legislative agenda.
Yeah.
Chaos a little bit.
And the ban. We're told don't call it a ban, yet the word ban really came out of the president's, well, maybe off his fingertips. And later Spicer talked about the ban. So call it what you like, but it's in court now. I'm reading a headline, a story that you put out, a column you put up. President Trump's Muslim ban is repulsive. Talk about that.
Yeah, it is. Well, first of all, it is a ban. Is it a ban on all Muslims, every Muslim from every country? No. But what is the sum total impact of this ban on 7 countries and on the overwhelming majority of refugees? It is a ban. Is it temporary, as the president says? We're going to find that out. You know, is it a temporary review? The fact of the matter is that the policy that has been in place for vetting refugees and vetting visa holders from countries like this is a pretty rigorous one. At least 2 years, sometimes up to 3 years of intense vetting. Does a ban like this, albeit 90 days, 120 days, does that move the ball forward? Does that make our policies more stringent? Is that within the traditional values of the United States of America? And just procedurally, do you issue a, quote, ban, unquote, on a Friday, and then Saturday detain people who've taken a long time to get visas?
Yeah.
It's a messy situation. It's in the courts right now. They will decide. So far, the administration is not scoring a lot of points in the lower courts.
Well, and it's interesting, too, just to see the number of Dick Cheney, for instance, coming out against it. The number of high-ranking, reputable Republicans who are coming out against this shows just how divided not just the country is on this, but within their own party, within the Republican Party, how divided it is.
That's very, very true. The nation is split. I wouldn't say almost evenly. It is a majority that oppose the president's ban. 43-45% support it. But you're right. It's an establishment, anti-establishment thing, and we're going to continue to see a lot of that over the next couple of years.
John, the argument that I think Sean Spicer laid out, that these 7 countries have some element of turmoil within their own governments, and we can't trust their documentation, the way that they might be screening potential candidates to come over here. You put anything into that? You buy that?
Not necessarily. simply because the vetting on our end is really robust. Again, it's 2 years worth of vetting, up to 3 years that some people have to wait, and then folks are very closely monitored. Now, am I suggesting that we ought to continue with a policy of laxity? Hardly. I don't think it's a lax policy as it is. You go behind the scenes at Homeland Security, the Bureau of Immigration, and so on, and what you see are people that are working overtime. Now, yes, sadly, there's a San Bernardino. Yes, there is an Orlando. Some of these things, like Orlando, are situations where someone acts and then after the fact, Canadian-born or American-born, they say yes, and I'm turned on by, I was converted by ISIS. No immigration policy whatsoever is going to be able to nail those people 100% of the time, but look at how good a job law enforcement on every level has done thus far.
Interesting when the president tweeted out, and this was a really tough tweet coming from the and somebody said to me just a few minutes ago, how many times have you said I can't believe Donald Trump said that, and it hasn't hurt him, and that's really true. But the fact that he literally came out and said about this judge in Seattle, if another attack happens and people die, it's going to be your fault. In so many words, that's what he tweeted out. Boy, that was a rough tweet.
That's a rough tweet, and this is. It's one thing to be unconventional, right? It's one thing to be controversial. One thing to be in the permanent campaign as the celebrity that he is. But at some point, you got to grab the reins and be president of the United States, and a president of the United States of a majority of the people. And that's the sort of thing that appears to be missing. Look, his demeanor is his demeanor. He is who he is, and he got elected. But words count, especially when you're president of the United States, and this stuff is not appropriate. I don't mind a president tweeting. Look, we're constantly moving into an era of new technology, but words do matter, and you got to make sure those 140 characters are cautious.
And I got to tell you, the tweeting back to the president is just unbelievably disrespectful. It's brutal,
sure
too.
it is.
Oh, it's just if you read through some of these strings, I mean, it's just awful to read. And then there's a lot of President Obama put a ban on, which Kellyanne Conway got caught in some mistruths at the end of the week. But then. What do you say to somebody who says, well, listen, look what Roosevelt did with Japanese Americans? I mean, this is the same type of thing. That was actually worse. What do you say to that?
We've had these moments in our history, and I make it very clear, we don't celebrate those moments. There's no national holiday or moment of celebration for, the internment of Japanese Americans.
Yeah.
Or the Chinese Exclusion Act. We repudiate those moments. This is a moment for repudiation right now. After there's perspective and time has passed a little bit, most Americans say, ouch, we shouldn't have done that.
And finally, Utica. I know Congresswoman Tenney has taken a great deal of criticism from people who say, of all cities, of all representatives, someone who represents a city like Utica, which really is an example of a melting pot. Talk about that.
It is an example of melting pot. Every opportunity I get, I try to bring Utica more and more into the national and global forum because it is a model for accepting refugees and seeing refugees develop. It's an amazing story that continues to unfold. It's something we should embrace and be proud of, and we should not really be a part of excluding immigrants, especially when the story we want to tell is a story that's a role model for other communities.
Interesting stuff. John Zogby, the crazy stuff just continues. We appreciate your time.
Take care.